Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. In today's video, we're talking about Enzo Maresca's post-match press conference. Not only that, but what Johnny B. Mikel had to say about Nicolas Jackson. Nicolas Jackson issued an apology after his red card last night. Chelsea have had more talks at West Ham over Mohammed Kudus, and Nicolas Jackson's future seems to be decided. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k by the end of 2025. Kicking things off, Nizar Kinsella has reported what Maresca said in terms of player selection and tactics for the Flamengo game. And he says, in terms of players, we tried to choose the right ones for the game plan. We chose Reece. He was good for 60 minutes like the rest. Dario and Andre will have their chances in the future. He goes on to say, I tried something new today with tactics for next season. Flamengo deserved it. Congrats to them. That's it. This is very interesting to me because we know that Maresca is very stubborn in terms of his tactics. He always has been. We've been crying out for changes. We've been crying out for different team selection, different formations, and he decides to do it in the Club World Cup. And if I'm being honest, I think Chelsea really need to decide what their plan is for the Club World Cup. Are we taking this seriously, or is this a glorified pre-season? We really need to make that decision, because why all of a sudden is Maresca not playing the likes of Asugo, not playing the likes of Andre Santos, who's been taken to the Club World Cup and isn't involved in the squad whatsoever? Like, he's in the squad, he's not played any minutes, not even as a substitute, made a cameo. So in my opinion, he has to play the last game. It has to be, we need to, one, get the result to go through to the next stages if Chelsea are actually serious about going far in this competition, because last night we were absolutely dismembered and dismantled and absolutely battered by Flamengo, and fair play to them. They played very well, fully deserved the 3 points. If you haven't watched my match review, there is a link in the description, or you can go check on my channel, and fair play to them. They fully deserved it. But I don't understand why Maresca's changing the system, not selecting certain clientele to play in these games. It makes no sense to me. So are we taking this seriously, or are we using it as a pre-season? You can't kind of flip-flop between it. I'm not saying this is Maresca's fault. I think this is from the board all the way down, because even as fans, we don't really know what's going on. Are we trying to win this competition, or is it just a pre-season? Because even if it is a pre-season, if that's your attitude in terms of how you want to try and do things, play all the other players that don't get many minutes, so you can actually see what standard they're at, what they can do for the team, and how we're going to utilise them in the next Premier League season. That's my logic there. The fact that he wants to try something different, fair enough. He wants to try something different. He got it horribly wrong, if I'm being honest, but you can't knock a man for trying, considering this entire fan base has been saying that he's very stubborn, set in his ways, and doesn't adapt, doesn't change things. If he's tried it, we've lost. I mean, we got absolutely battered in that second half. It makes no sense. Reece James and Gusto in the same 11 makes no sense to me. Especially when you've got the likes of Dario Asugo, and you've got Andre Santos, you've got Lavia, Caicedo. What? Why do you need to have Gusto and Reece James and put Reece James in midfield? Like, we just know that it doesn't work. I've tried backing it every time I've seen it. In the Conference League, we've kind of got away with it. He's had okay games, he's had good games, he's had poor games in that position. But against South American opposition in a competition like this in the Premier League, it isn't going to cut it. And I don't think he's going to use Reece James in midfield very often in the Premier League next season because of how stacked our midfield is. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Gusto has not played well under Enzo Maresca whatsoever. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that his selection and whatnot, playing Palmer as a right winger. Okay, a lot of the fan base were calling out for that for a while. A lot of the fan base last night said Palmer isn't a right winger, he's a 10. So I feel like unified, we've decided that Palmer is a 10, and that is his best position. So Maresca needs to play him as a 10. We need to solve that winger rotation. We need to get a new left winger in for sure and build on that. But hey, look, Maresca, at least he's given credit to Flamengo. I mean, they played us off the park. Absolutely played us off the park. Fully deserved. But I'm just a bit confused about Maresca saying about, trying different tactics and trying new systems and, for next season. Like, I don't understand why all of a sudden you're trying to switch it up when Maresca ball, what we've played for an entire season under your reign, is what you've done every single week. Yes, you've changed little bits here and there, whether who's inverting or where we're overlapping or inverting in certain ways. Granted, across the season, that's your kind of flexibility, but it's still been quite rigid. So just to come out and say, yeah, we're trying something completely different for next season, it just don't add up for me. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. Moving on to what John Obi Mikel said on DAZN. He is one of the pundits that was analysing the game, and he started by saying this: I've talked about this goalkeeper so many times. He can't win us a title. He's not that guy. We need to go in the market and bring in a top goalkeeper. He then goes on to talk about Nicolas Jackson, and he says Jackson needs to have a word with himself. Where do you want to go with your Chelsea career? And he finishes by saying, unbelievable, stupid mistake. What is going through his head? He did this at Newcastle and he does it again. Now, I really want to break this down because it's technically like, two separate things. Regarding Robert Sanchez, I have no idea why Mikel is slandering Robert Sanchez after this game specifically, because even in my watch along, if you watch the game with your eyes, Sanchez had nothing to do with the goals. There was nothing he could have done to save them or prevent them. It was a defensive unit error, and Sanchez was hopeless on all three of them. If you're a goalkeeper at one post and the ball gets put across the back stick, unless you're Superman, he did his best to get across. He made some very important saves. Distribution, yes, we know it's very shaky, and he had an okay-ish game, bit wishy-washy with his back passing, but nothing that really put us under a lot of pressure. In the first half, there was a couple of passes within a space of a minute. They were always thinking, oh, here we go, Sanchez being Sanchez. But the rest of the game, he was fairly solid, and I don't think he could have done anything wrong. Well, he couldn't have done anything to prevent any of the goals that we conceded. So I don't know what Mikel is on about there. I do agree with the sentiment that we do need to go back in the market and get a top-class keeper, but it just seems like a very wild statement to make after that game, and it's very easy to look on the surface and go, well, I conceded 3, it was Sanchez's fault. It makes me wonder if he was actually watching the game or how he dissects games. It makes no sense. We had this previously with Mikel in the last game where we had Delap, we had Jackson, and he spent the whole time going, yeah, Delap's come in, I hope he does well, but no one really wanted him. Chelsea fans wanted Osimhen, and it was like, this is so irrelevant. You're on there to push an agenda for something that the Chelsea fans are sick and tired of hearing, because we know it's not going to happen. We've just signed a new number 9. You're meant to be using this section to talk about the Chelsea game, and you're going, yeah, but Victor Osimhen, though, he's coming to Chelsea. We want to push him to Chelsea. It's just a bit wild to me. So I wanted to get your opinions on that regarding Sanchez, but let's move on to what he says about Jackson. And I totally agree with what he's saying about Nicolas Jackson. Now, we know historically that these two do not get on. They've had beef for a long time. Mikel has called out Jackson time and time again, and, in fairness, there was a time where Jackson responded in form and scored loads of goals in quick succession and was like, shut up, right? And fair enough. Hasn't been that way for a while now. Now, when it comes to this game specifically, I totally agree with what Mikel has said about him. It is an unbelievable, stupid mistake, and we don't know what was going through his head. Reckless challenge, on the pitch for 4 minutes. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. There's a lot of Chelsea fans that are done with Nicolas Jackson after last night. And to be fair, I've backed him till I'm blue in the face. I've backed him as soon, for as long as possible, saying, he is looking to improve. He did improve on the first season to the second season before his dip in form. And even I'm like, he's just becoming impossible to defend. When you do things like that on a football pitch, when you're on the pitch for less than 5 minutes, you're there to help your team get back into the game, and you completely nullify it. It makes no sense to me. And it's just, there's no justification, there's no defence for it. So in that, I totally agree. And when he talks about what sort of Chelsea career does he want, I kind of understand what he's saying. Like, do you want to go on and be a great, like a Drogba, like a Costa? You put your head down, you learn more about what it means to play for Chelsea, and you develop your game, and you try and give the best on the pitch. And I agree to a point, but at the same time, there's only so much that Jackson can do without delivering on the pitch, right? I feel like Jackson wants to play for this club. I feel like he loves this club. I feel like he wants to impress the fans. I just feel like when silly stuff like this happens, it completely backfires on what Jackson's worked hard and, the credibility he's built with the fan base, at least, trying hard and working hard. Even if he's not scoring or assisting, yes, it frustrates fans, but they can see the hard work with the pressing and the link-up play that he's doing. You just go back to the last game, he set up Neto's goal, and we were praising him. Because it was like, this is exactly what we want from Jackson. If you could do that consistently, where you're providing assists and, obviously score goals too, perfect forward for us. But then he goes into something silly like this, and it's all undone. It's all undone, and the fans go, yeah, we're done. We just need to sell him, move him on, get another striker in. So then we've got Jackson. So we've got Delap to compete with someone else. I personally feel like, regardless of all this, if you took it all away, when you have Jackson and Delap competing with each other, I think it's a very healthy competition, and it can go very far. But when Jackson's doing silly stuff like this, it really doesn't look good. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on what Mikel said about Nicolas Jackson down below in the comments. For me, I agree with what he's saying about Jackson. I disagree about what he said about Sanchez in this specific scenario. But hey, what's your stance with Nicolas Jackson? Are you finished with him? Have you washed your hands with him? Do you still back him to go on and have a good Chelsea career? Let me know your thoughts down below. The Guardian Sport have reported that Chelsea have held further talks with West Ham over Mohammed Kudus. West Ham want straight cash. Now, this is very interesting. We know that Chelsea are in the market for that moulded player that can play in, attacking midfield, either off the left, off the right, centrally, can support that striker, not necessarily be that striker. You've got Ekatike, Mohammed Kudus, who's the other one? Big Nick, Morgan Rogers. There's loads that we're linked with, right? And then you've got your out-and-out wingers like Nusa and Fofana and Gittins. In my opinion, you go for someone like Mohammed Kudus. He's going to be cheaper. than like a Hugo. Well, yesterday we spoke about Hugo. Frankfurt are willing to take a lesser fee, whether it's 68 to 76 million, right? I feel like Kudus can go for a similar type of wage, but he's Prem proven, and he's played in the league, and I think he's a great player. I think he's very good in that final third in terms of decision making. We're not taking as much of a chance on Mohammed Kudus because he's been in the Premier League. He knows what it takes. He knows how physical and fast paced the league is. Whereas if you go get someone like Hugo from Frankfurt, who again 22 goals, 12 assists in 48 games last season, a very good return. Bundesliga coming to the Premier League for Chelsea specifically historically hasn't translated very, very well. And then you've got other players like Morgan Rogers, again, Prem proven, has the experience. I would like to see what sort of fee is floating about for Morgan Rogers for Aston Villa to be happy to part way with him. But I really like this. I would love Mohammed Kudus at Chelsea 100%. How much do you think Chelsea would be willing to spend? Do you think they will match the £85 million release clause? Because West Ham have said that they are willing to take less than that £85 million release clause, but they want straight cash. So how far do you think Chelsea can, or how low do you think Chelsea can get it where West Ham would be happy? Would it be a £65 million deal? Would it be a £70 million deal? Do you think that Chelsea really push it up there and pay the 85 million? Very curious to know your thoughts down below. Do you think that Kudus will be a good addition to the Chelsea squad, or should we go for someone else like Big Nick or Hugo or Morgan Rogers? Moving on to Nicolas Jackson's apology. Posted this on Instagram last night after the game, and it says, "I want to say sorry to the club, the staff, my teammates, all the fans watching. I let you down. Another red card. And honestly, I'm so angry with myself. I work hard every day to help the team, not to put us in this kind of situation. I still don't fully understand how it happened, but one thing is clear, it wasn't intentional. Just a football moment that went the wrong way. No excuses. I take full responsibility. I'll reflect, I'll grow, I'll come back stronger for the badge, and for everyone who believes in me, sorry, sorry, sorry." If I'm being brutally honest, I hate seeing stuff like this. Now, yes, take accountability. Say sorry to your teammates in private, whatever, which you can visibly see he was doing, and he did that after the game as well. Cool, that's fine. I don't care if you're sorry or not, personally. I don't like all this Instagram story stuff saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I want to be better." Like, I get it, but go and prove it on the pitch. You didn't do this after Newcastle, and then you went and proved it in the Conference League final and scored. Yeah, cool. That apology accepted, because you went out and you went, right, I've learned, I'm going to prove to the fans that I'm not that player. This is what I want to do. And he scores in the Conference League final, helps us win it. Fair enough. But then, like, a couple games later, you do this. So you haven't learned. And this is what really rubs the salt in the wound for us fans, or for some of us fans. Not all of us. Some of us will be happy with this. And that's perfectly fine. This is just my opinion. There's no point in you putting out an apology like this when you've already done something very similar. In the last 4 games, you've had 2 red cards. It doesn't look like you've learned at all. And the challenge was horrendous. I'm not saying it was malicious. You can see that it wasn't intentional. But at the same time, like, it's just immature, poor footballing IQ. And it's a mistake that is easily avoidable if he just thinks a bit more. We know that he was going for the ball. We know that he was trying to, fight for the ball. But look, these things happen in football. I get it, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't. Again, I find it very hard to defend Jackson. Now, I mean, yeah, take responsibility. Tell us that you're sorry. Cool. Like, I really don't read into this too much. Now, and that's just me. Again, let me know your thoughts down below. You satisfied with something like this? Do you see that and go, all right, fair enough, we'll let you off? Or do you kind of think, well, I don't care, prove it on the pitch, or I'm done with you, get out of our club? Because there's a lot of people within our fan base that are in different sort of pockets of positions when it comes to Jackson. And like I said, I find it hard to defend him at the moment, especially when you look at 2 red cards in the last 4 games. Very similar sort of childish mistakes to be doing on a pitch to get the red card. And then you come out with this. I look at this and I just think, well, you've not learnt at all, because you literally did it the other week, mate, and then you've done it again. So you can't be in a position to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, there's no excuse, I'll reflect and I'll grow." You can say, though, one thing I will give him credit for is he takes full responsibility, and he's angry with himself, and he's apologised to the staff, club and teammates and fans. Fair enough, that's fair, all right? And like I said, you do that behind closed doors. But I just wanted to share this with you and get you guys' opinions, thoughts, down in the comments, because honestly, I see all this and I just think it's cringe. It is what it is. Like I said, go do it to the people that it really matters to in your day-to-day life, your professional work life. Fans will forgive you if you go do it on the pitch. It's as simple as that. And I don't know whether Jackson's future, from a personal level, if it's over at Chelsea, if this just puts him back a little bit, I don't know. But I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Moving on, Damasio have reported breaking news that Nicolas Jackson's Chelsea future is in doubt. Juventus have probed him and has already made inquiries. That's a very sus sentence. Napoli are also interested but are prioritising working on Nunes and Luca. Juventus are currently ahead of Napoli. This is very interesting, and I know I just said in the last part of the video, I don't know what's really happening, in my opinion, with Jackson's future at Chelsea, but things like this coming out that not just one club, not just two clubs, but three clubs are kind of sniffing around going, oh, Jackson, he'd do really well in Serie A, and I think he would do well in the Italian league. I think it would suit his style of football. I think there's a lot less pressure, it's a lot less fast-paced. I think he would do well in Serie A. I think he would do well for a Napoli or a Juventus. How much Chelsea would be willing to get for him is a different story. We paid £32 million for him. I think we could get a profit if he's going somewhere like the Serie A. I think we could sell him for 40, 45 million euros. And I think that's probably a fair asking price considering his age, the Prem experience, the fact that he can score goals, not as consistency as we'd like, but he can score goals. But I feel like if the Italian teams are looking at him, it's more for the hold-up play as well as the finishing. It is a slower paced league compared to the Premier League. I feel like he'd do really well. And this just makes, whether this is perfect timing for these briefs and reports to come out because he had that red card last night, or whether this was going to come out anyway, it seems very convenient. And like I said, some Chelsea fans were completely done with Nicolas Jackson. They'll be like, cool, get out of my club, see you later. How much would you take for Nicolas Jackson? Be brutally honest, how much would you take for him? How much do you think is a fair market price in euros for a club like Napoli or Juventus to come in? Now, it says that Juventus are currently ahead of Napoli. So it could be a case that Napoli are interested in prioritising Nunes and Luca. He could go to a club like Juventus, and I think he would fit in very well in that Juventus squad. I personally think, 45 million euros. We make a little bit of profit on him. I could see Chelsea also demanding something stupid like 60 million euros, and Juventus being like, no, thank you, we're not paying that, because I don't know what that is in pounds. 50 million? I don't know whether he's gone up to a market value of 50 million in the last couple of seasons when we bought him for 32. That's just me. I would say, look, looking at around £40 million for him, I think is a fair price where you make a bit of profit, and it's also a big chunk to go towards the next forward that you bring in. In the terms of the net, in terms of your spend, you get some back, right? I'd be happy to sell him. I'd be happy to keep him. I'm still on the fence. I think he is very immature. He has no football IQ, and he does need to develop that side of his game. I feel like he also needs to develop his finishing. I feel like what he does bring to the team is to a very good standard in terms of link-up play, hold-up play, getting other players involved, especially the wide men or deep-lying midfielders that are running through. I really like that side of his game. But it is let down by his finishing, it is let down by his footballing IQ, it is let down by his decision-making sometimes. So, again, happy for him to go, happy for him to stay. Would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Are you Jackson in, or were you Jackson out? Get rid of him this summer. And that's all of that is Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You are a real one. And secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.